you our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Craig Stammen. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network, as today the Padres take on the Chicago White Sox in the first game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup tonight for the White Sox, left-hander Noah Schultz, and for the Padres, right-hander German Marquez. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you from inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as the Padres continue this 6-game homestand. First pitch coming up at 6:40 in the series opener against the White Sox on this Friday evening. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we have a lot to do. We'll hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen in a little while. We'll hear from tonight's second baseman Fernando Tatis Jr. We'll also hear from Jeremiah Estrada in just a moment on his return from the IL. And I also go one-on-one with Padres closer Mason Miller as we get ready for this series opener. But first, it's time to set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Well, the Padres come in at 19-11. The White Sox are at 14-17. German Marquez comes into this start a 3-1 record, 4.38 ERA. Young left-hander Noah Schultz in the very early part of his major league career comes in with a 1-1 record and a 3.52 ERA. The Padres are coming off losing 2 out of 3 to the Cubs earlier this week. Padres won on Monday night. They lost on Tuesday and Wednesday. The White Sox, despite being 14-17, they're playing some good baseball as of late. They've won 8 of their last 12 games, and they begin a 6-game road trip here tonight. White Sox coming off a 4-2 homestand against the Angels and Nationals, and they actually swept the Angels in a 3-game series. So even though the White Sox have not been good the last handful of years and they come in under 500, do not take the White Sox lightly. This is a young, hungry team that certainly can play. As we get ready for today's game, let's hear from Padres reliever Jeremiah Estrada, who's back off the IL today. Certainly a big boost for the Padres bullpen. Here was Estrada earlier today inside the Padres clubhouse on what he worked on during his rehab stint.
Had to make some adjustments with just some things, more explosiveness, more just crazy. Of course, I had to put some weight back on too. This offseason, I really kind of wanted to really invest in myself, eating better, working out more, investing in myself. And I guess I did a little bit too much, where I got a little bit lost too much weight. Felt good though. But just had to eat a little bit more tamales and just a lot of my fiance's cooking, and during this process did a lot of that. And honestly, I just give all thanks to the staff here, the trainers and the strength coaches, and even just the pitching department, helping me become who I am. They worked really hard. They spent a lot of their time with me and making me a better guy, better player.
Your velocity went back up. Did that make you start to feel a little bit more like yourself at that point?
Yeah, that's kind of the job of the role, what I was trying to go for. I wasn't going to be back if I wasn't feeling good, and if I wasn't right back where my velo is normally at. Feels good to be back. Just excited to see how it turns out from here.
How much weight did you end up putting back on?
Probably like 8 pounds, 9 pounds in 10 days. Hey, when you're Mexican, you could do that thing quick.
What did it take to get the velocity back up? What did you?
Some weight back, some stuff like that. It's so crazy to see how much all of the computer analytics stuff can tell you what's wrong with your pitching nowadays. From back in the day, it's probably hey, bro, you gotta figure that out. But now they're able to kind of see what's the littlest thing, whether if my stride was there or a little bit too quick, more explosive, a little bit too light, there's just so much little things. But just kind of just getting stronger was mainly the main thing. I felt strong, but there's always more improvement for anything, no matter what it is. Just ate, did my thing. Fiance hit the kitchen a lot more, and she was excited. She loves to cook. I love her cooking. Had a tremendous amount of food.
That was Padres reliever Jeremiah Estrada as he comes off the IL, returns to the Padres bullpen here today. And so we'll see if all that food results in some major league success for Jeremiah Estrada. He was in a very good mood earlier today. Hopefully the velo is back for Jeremiah and he can continue being a big part of the Padres bullpen. As we get ready for first pitch coming up at 6:40, let's go inside the Jerry Coleman Broadcast Center.
Let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Tony Gwynn Jr. in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Well, Tony, let's start with a look at the guy we just heard from. That's Padres right-hander Jeremiah Estrada, back off the IL today. Obviously has been a very important part to the Padres bullpen the last couple of seasons. What does getting Jeremiah Estrada back do for this Padres pen?
I think it does a lot. I mean, it kind of reinforces, the strength of this bullpen. It's funny. You miss things when they're gone and taken away from you. And
yeah,
Jeremiah Estrada, his presence in that bullpen certainly was missed. And I think now that he's back healthy, again, we're going to get a chance to see Jeremiah at his best. And anytime you can add a guy like that to the back of your bullpen, you feel pretty good about it.
Tony, let's focus on the pitching matchup here today. Let's begin with a look at the left-hander, young left-hander, Noah Schultz on the mound for the White Sox. He is one of the better prospects in the game. He's a tall left-hander, listed at 6'10". He's had a pretty good amount of success in the early part of his major league career. If you're the Padres offense facing this kind of left-hander, this tall, I would assume a unique angle, how do you go about getting ready for a guy like this tonight that you've never seen?
As you're going to have to watch a lot of film.
Yeah.
And I think in a start like this, you can kind of afford to just trust what the heat maps or the information that you're getting and kind of go from there. And it doesn't mean you stay with it, but at least initially you can kind of, get a feel for it. I know for a 6'10" guy, he doesn't have a ton of extension. So I think that will be a thing that they can maybe pull from, not having the ball feel like he's dropping it in the catcher's glove. But ultimately it's all going to be about, once you get in the box, how does it look in real time versus the information you've gotten. And I think what we learned about this Padre team is the longer the game goes, the better their at-bats get, the better their approach gets. And so there's going to probably be a little bit of fill-out period as they kind of figure out what Noah Schultz is going to look like.
Tony, on the other side of this pitching matchup tonight, right-hander German Marquez. And, look, I know it's been a little up and down for German, but I think you zoom out, Tony, he's been pretty solid, including that outing in Mexico City, ends up going 6 innings, giving up 4 runs after giving up runs early, but settled in and allowed the Padres to ultimately win that game. Your thoughts on Marquez so far this season and what you'd like to see from him here tonight?
He's done that a couple different times this season. And I think in back-to-back starts, he's kind of, had a little bit of trouble early, but then been able to right the ship and give the Padres a chance to win. And again, I remind you, when you're talking about the back end of your rotation, those are the type of outings that you are expecting and that you need from those guys. I mean, German certainly could have let those last couple of starts get away from him, but he didn't. And he goes 5, and that ends up helping the bullpen. And more importantly, the Padres were in the ball game when he came out. And so I just think that he's done a good job. I think of the guys who've been in the back, and he's probably been the most consistent of them. And so you're hoping that continues to get better. But quite frankly, what he's given you in the back end of their rotation has been good enough. And the Padres have been able to win a few of those games, despite, what would be considered a kind of an up and down start.
Tony, I was talking about it before I brought you on. This White Sox team, they're young, but they're playing some good baseball right now. They sit 14-17. A lot of those wins have come over the course of the last couple of weeks. They've got a young slugger in Munetaka Murakami, who has been sensational so far. They've got former Padre Will Venable as their manager. Your thoughts on this White Sox team and Will Venable, a former teammate of yours who's at the helm for Chicago?
I'll start with the last part first. I think Will is, in my opinion, has always been one of the more intelligent baseball guys you'll come across, because he's got the best of both worlds, right? He understands the analytics side as a graduate of Princeton, but he also has feel. And that's usually where those things kind of get lost, is how do you apply it? How do you approach your players with it? I think the biggest thing that has happened to this team, obviously it's a much improved team in the same way the Rockies are, but Murakami coming in and having the success he's had early has allowed a guy like Colson Montgomery to kind of ease into the season. Without Murakami having the season he's having, all of the eyes would be on Montgomery, given how he finished last year, but he's been able to kind of ease into it. And I think when you have your young guys who are not necessarily the focal point of the ball club, I think it allows for them to kind of get into the season with not a ton of pressure. Certainly the start for Murakami has taken a lot of the pressure off the young guys. And I think you're seeing a team that is trying to learn the game and being coached by a terrific manager in Will Venable.
Yeah, had a chance to catch up with Will a little bit earlier today. We'll play that interview, I think, tomorrow for our listeners. So good catching up with Will earlier today. Tony, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Jesse Ackler coming up at 6:30 for this series opener. Thanks so much.
Anytime, Sam.
All right, Tony Gwynn Jr. joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. We'll talk more about this slugger, Munetaka Murakami, a little bit more later. But just to give you an idea of how good he's been so far, there are 3 players in the major leagues who have 12 home runs. One is Aaron Judge, one is Yordan Alvarez of the Astros, and the other is Murakami. So he has been one of the big-time home run hitters in baseball as a rookie here in 2026, and the Padres will have to focus on trying to get him out here tonight. Murakami batting second, playing first base for the White Sox here tonight. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a variety of ways. You can find me on X at Sammy Lev, SammyLev. Instagram DMs open as well. Sammy Lev there too. You can also chime in on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube channel. Let me know who you are, where you're tuned in from, and if you have a key to tonight's game, let me know what that key is, and I may just read it live here on the air. When we come back, we take our first look at today's Padres lineup. We hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen in a little bit as well. I go one-on-one with Padres closer Mason Miller, and much, much more to do. You're tuned in to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show from Petco Park right here on the Padres Radio Network. SoCal, Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. First pitch coming up at 6:40 p.m. for this series opener between the Padres and the Chicago White Sox. As always, our pregame coverage brought to you by EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Visit EcoWaterSoCal.com or call 760-350-3338. That's 760-350-3338. A lot of people already here inside the loft on this Friday night. Second City Connect Friday night of the season. Padres wore those jerseys in Mexico City last weekend, but just the second time they're wearing those beautiful brand new City Connect uniforms at home here tonight. Remember, the first City Connect Friday night, Gavin Sheets hit a walk-off home run. So what's in store on this City Connect Friday night? Well, we're going to find out. Let's give you today's Padres starting lineup. All right, the lineup for the Padres here tonight. Here we go. Little dramatic pause for effect. Ramon Laureano in left field leading off. Fernando Tatis Jr. at second base, batting second. Oh, there it is. Little late, but better late than never. All right, let's restart it here. Ramon Laureano in left field leading off. Fernando Tatis Jr. at second base, batting second. Miguel Andujar, the DH, batting third. Manny Machado at third base, batting cleanup. Xander Bogaerts at shortstop, batting fifth. Ty France back in the lineup today at first base, batting sixth. Nick Castellanos in right field, batting seventh. Freddie Fermin, the catcher, batting eighth. And Bryce Johnson in center tonight, batting ninth. No Jackson Merrill in the lineup tonight. We'll hear more on that from Craig Stammen in a moment. And also, again, Jeremiah Estrada activated from the IL earlier today. The corresponding move, the Padres sending right-hander David Morgan down to AAA El Paso. With all that in mind, let's hear from the Padres skipper before this series opener.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres skipper Craig Stammen. Served up by Sinley Food. If you've had better chicken, you must be a rooster.
Jeremiah Estrada back from the IL. What kind of value can he provide to your bullpen in this club?
Yeah, he's a back-end reliever for us, and when he's right, he can get anybody out in the league. We've seen him strike out, a record number of people in a row. So glad to have him back and be able to slot him back in there in the back end of the bullpen, help Jason, Adrian, and Mason close out games.
At what point did you guys feel that you were confident in him and his ability to come back?
Yeah, I think we took the appropriate amount of time to get him right, to make sure he's feeling good. And then we had a couple rehab outings. We just wanted to check the boxes, make sure his velocity was there and the stuff was there. And he checked those boxes right away in those two outings, and just feel really comfortable bringing him back at this point.
And then on the other side, David Morgan going down to AAA. What was that conversation like with him, and what went into that decision?
Yeah, Demo's a great pitcher, and he's going to be a big part of our success this year. I think he ran into a little bit of a snafu here lately, not being able to command his fastball as well as he would like. But he'll have a little bit of time in El Paso to get that right, and we should see him back, sometime soon.
Just a day off for Jackson today?
Day off for Jackson. Coming off that trip to Elevation in Colorado and Mexico, trying to, get a day for a lot of these guys that are mostly everyday players and figure out what's best for them and trying to partner with them on that. And so today was the day Jackson and I decided it would be a good day for him to take a breather.
What is the plan with Canning? I know he's throwing a bullpen today. Is this will get another minor league game?
Yeah, potentially another minor league game on Sunday. His rehab is winding down, so we'll have to, slot him into the rotation at some point. But he's doing really well through his bullpen today, and we'll plan the next start accordingly.
Is that Lake Elsinore, or would you throw back?
TBD, we'll figure out. He's been the last few in El Paso, so could be any number of places.
What kind of reports did you get on Giolito's start in Elsinore?
He said he felt great. He's building his pitch count up. He said it feels a little bit like spring training, where he's sharp for some parts of the game and not very sharp for other parts of the game. He's got a few weeks left, before we have to bring him back up. So we're going to use those weeks to our advantage and get him built up the right way where he feels comfortable coming out here and helping us, succeed and win games.
You came back to
Yeah, Yuki, same thing. He's down there in AAA. He's had a few outings. We're trying to, get him to where he can pitch 2 innings at a time. I think his rehab is coming to an end here this next week also. So, a few more outings for him, and then we'll see him back.
You in the front office, how much work did you guys do into Murakami and how he might translate to playing for the Padres?
When I was in the front office, I didn't have a whole lot to do with any of the international signs. That was AJ and his crew that always go over to Japan. I stayed stateside. So I wasn't in too many of those conversations when we're talking about some of the international players that have had success here in the States.
Craig, when you look at Jeremiah Estrada's comments about getting in better shape and losing weight may have been a little detrimental. As a former pitcher, it seems like a real difficult thing to find that sweet spot and maintain it.
Yeah, I think it is. I think there's just as many players that have said I've lost weight and got stronger and felt better on the mound. Then there's other guys that just need that extra mass to accomplish what they want. I was definitely one that needed a little bit more. Not the heavier I weighed, the harder I threw, but when I got to a certain weight, the velocity went to a certain point. And so, it's one of those things that it's trial and error through every offseason. And once you kind of figure out who you are in an offseason and what you need to do to be ready for a season, you got to try to do that as many times as you can to stay in the big leagues. And I think Jeremiah knows now, what that plan is going forward. And it's a good thing that he could accomplish getting that back here in the last 2-3 weeks.
Just going back to David Morgan, obviously he's a guy that had been here since early last year, and now he's going back down to AAA. I'm sure that's not what he envisioned for his season. How do you, when you're having that conversation, balance, I suppose, maybe the disappointment of going back down alongside, I guess the idea that if you go down and you do things you're supposed to do, you'll probably get another opportunity?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the fortunate thing is I've been that person before. I've been the person that's been in the big leagues and then eventually sent down just because you're not being who you are, who you have been. And sometimes you just need a little recalibration to get back to who you are and what you're great at. I think that's all David needs is just a little bit of a breather, get back to being the strike thrower that he was when we first called him up last year. I remember, going through the minor leagues and being like, this guy doesn't not throw a strike. We almost need him to throw more balls, to be a little bit more effective. And now it's kind of gone the opposite way where he's pitching away from contact and instead of inviting contact and letting his good stuff play. So he's going to be just fine. Like, he's got great stuff. He's going to be a big part of our team this year.
That was Padres manager Craig Stammen earlier today inside the Padres dugout. We'll hear more from Craig on our post-game coverage coming up later on this evening. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we get ready for this series opener. First pitch coming up at 6:40. I'll give you a little fun thing going on today here inside the loft, or really outside on the rail on this level of the Western Metal Building below the roof, before the very top level. Don and Mud, along with the pre and post game coverage, Mary Louise Cook, Bob Scanlon, Mike Pomerantz as well, all involved. They're actually calling today's game from the rail outside the Western Metal Building on this level. So I've got company up here today. So they are doing the TV broadcast from up here today, which will be, I'm sure, very, very cool for the viewers at home. And I've got friends up here today, not just my area here in the Western Metal Building. So that should be fun to have the telecast from up here. In fact, they've got a cameraman right now taking videos of the loft and everybody enjoying their drinks and at the bar and enjoying all the food and everybody talking to one another, having a good time. So it's a party, a Friday night party here inside the loft at the Western Metal Building, as always. First pitch coming up at 6:40. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to step up their game? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not. Presented by ASAP Drain Guys and Plumbing, a division of Anderson Commercial, your full-service plumber serving San Diego County.
A quick who's hot, who's not today. Let's take a look at one guy in the Padres lineup that is very, very hot. He did take an offer on Wednesday, but a very rare offer as of late for Xander Bogaerts. Aside from that, his last 21 games, batting .338 with a .972 OPS, a .427 on-base percentage, 5 home runs, 14 RBIs, and 14 runs scored in that span. Xander has been terrific for the Padres as of late, and he continues to be in the hot category. The not category, we take a look at Freddie Fermin doing the catching, batting 8th today for the Padres. Fermin, in his last 25 plate appearances, only has 3 hits. He's 3 for 18 in that span, with only one extra base hit in that span. So that's a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for today's game coming up at 6:40 here in downtown San Diego. Let's give you some quick Major League headlines as we go around the horn.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
Well, despite a 10-21 start entering today and a recent 12-game losing streak, the New York Mets are expected to keep Carlos Mendoza as manager, according to their president of baseball operations, David Stearns. Stearns saying earlier today to MLB.com, we know our record is not what we want, and we know what we are capable of, or I should say, we know we are capable of more. He said, quote, we don't view this as a manager problem, and we don't intend to make a change. So there had been a lot of heat on Carlos Mendoza, a lot of people wondering if he would be the next manager to be let go early in the season after Rob Thompson was already fired. Alex Cora also let go by the Red Sox, but the Mets are standing by their manager, Carlos Mendoza, after a tough start. Yankees shortstop Anthony Volpe is ready to rejoin the New York Yankees, but the team is not ready for his return yet. Jose Caballero playing very well. The Yankees are currently keeping Volpe at Double-A Somerset. Then they plan to activate him at some point after that. Manager Aaron Boone said Volpe will remain at Somerset through Sunday, and that'll bring them to the maximum length of a minor league rehab assignment. After that, the Yankees will have to activate him or option him to the minor leagues. So kind of interesting situation there. A guy who has been the Yankees starting shortstop, and Anthony Volpe. Brewers put right-hander Brandon Woodruff on the IL after a reduction in velocity caused him to leave a game yesterday in the second inning. Woodruff put on the IL due to right shoulder inflammation. So some quick headlines for you from around the major leagues. Brandon Woodruff to the IL. The Yankees not quite ready to call up Anthony Volpe. And the Mets will be keeping their manager, Carlos Mendoza, it sounds like, for the remainder of the season. Some quick headlines there. We'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming up a little bit later. When we come back, we'll hear some quick comments from Padres second baseman tonight, Fernando Tatis Jr. We have our keys to the game coming up a little bit later. What to watch for. Plus, I go one-on-one with Padres closer, the flamethrower, Mason Miller. Much more to do on our pregame coverage. We continue after this on the Padres Radio Network. right here at Petco Park as we get ready for this series opener between the Padres and Chicago White Sox. First pitch coming up at 6:40. Sam Levitt with you on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show from inside the Western Metal Building. Should be a very fun Friday night as the Padres try to get back on track after losing the final two games of their series to the Cubs on Tuesday and Wednesday. And today they give the ball to right-hander German Marquez. They'll try to start this series with a win here tonight. A lot to do on our pregame coverage. We'll hear from Fernando Tatis Jr. in just a little bit. We'll also hear from Mason Miller. I go one-on-one with Mason coming up in just a bit as well. Let's give you today's injury report. Remind you who's coming off the IL today for the Padres and some White Sox updates as well.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Take a look at today's injury report. Of course, Jeremiah Estrada off the IL for the Padres today. He had been dealing with right elbow tendonitis. Sounds like his velocity during his rehab assignment was back up. So Jeremiah back to the big league team today. Will be available out of the Padres bullpen today. Corresponding move, Padres sending right-hander David Morgan down to AAA El Paso. So certainly a boost for the Padres bullpen, getting Estrada back in that pen. As far as the White Sox, they're missing a handful of players right now. One of their outfielders, Everson Pereira, he's on the 10-day IL due to a right pectoral strain. They're missing right-hander Jonathan Cannon right now as well. Due to a hip injury. Sounds like he could begin a rehab assignment shortly. They've been without Kyle Teal, one of their really good young catchers. He did not begin a rehab assignment last week as initially anticipated. He's been dealing with a hamstring issue. Sounds like it's not fully healed yet. And so those are some of the injuries for the White Sox. So they've got a number of guys on this young team that are on the IL right now. And so that's a look at today's injury report. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
Well, they had Friday afternoon baseball in Chicago today. Cubs beat the Diamondbacks 6-5 at Wrigley. We've got a number of games going on right now. Rangers and the Tigers tied at 4 in the 8th inning in Detroit. Pirates lead the Reds 4-0 in the 4th inning in Pittsburgh. Brewers 6, Nationals 1 in the 8th inning in D.C. Yankees ahead of the Orioles 5-2 in the 7th inning in the Bronx. Red Sox lead the Astros at Fenway 3-1 in the 8th inning. Phillies 2, Marlins 1 in the 6th inning in Miami. Blue Jays lead the Twins 4-2 in Minnesota in the 4th inning. Cardinals lead the Dodgers 4-1 in St. Louis in the 4th. The Rockies lead the Braves 5-0 in the 2nd in Colorado. Other games yet to begin aside from this one. Mets and the Angels in Anaheim at 6:38. Guardians and the A's in Sacramento at 6:40. And finally, Royals in Seattle against the Mariners at 6:45. When we come back, we'll take a deeper dive into today's White Sox starting pitcher, left-hander, a very tall left-hander, Noah Schultz. Plus, I go one-on-one with Padres closer Mason Miller. First pitch coming up at 6:40 right here on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. First pitch coming up at 6:40 between the Padres and the Chicago White Sox. I go one-on-one with Padres closer Mason Miller in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. But first, let's give you our keys to this series opener.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Rock and Block Turf and Hardscapes. Beautiful artificial turf that stays green all year long. Trust and experience. The job isn't done until it's done right. See them at rockandblocklandscape.com.
Well, the first key for the Padres here tonight will be figuring out very talented left-hander Noah Schultz making the start for the White Sox tonight, making his fourth career start. He allowed 2 runs in 6 innings with 8 strikeouts last Saturday against the Nationals. Batters are just 2 for 31 with 11 strikeouts on fastballs from Schultz. He has a 6'10" frame. He is a tall left-hander, a 3/4 release point. That presents a really tough matchup for left-handed hitters, probably part of the reason why Jackson Merrill and Jay Cronenworth are out of the lineup here tonight. Lefties are a combined 0 for 12 against them with 6 strikeouts so far. Padres obviously have never seen this tall left-hander Noah Schultz. Here was Fernando Tatis Jr. earlier on if seeing video of a guy like this can help facing a pitcher you've never seen before.
Yeah, it can help. And but at the end of the day, it's who makes the best execution during the game.
How many 6-7 pitchers have you faced, and how different is the delivery when you're standing up, when you're standing in?
Yeah, it depends on their mobility, how far on home plate they're going to deliver the ball. But, you know, it's nothing we haven't faced already, especially everybody throwing 100 these days.
That was Fernando Tatis Jr. talking about how you go about facing a guy like a Noah Schultz. But the other part of this game the Padres have to focus on as far as keys is limiting some of the hot hitters in this White Sox lineup. Colson Montgomery, he won Wednesday's game for the Sox with a walk-off single. He's batting .319 with 2 doubles, 5 home runs, and 12 RBIs in his last 12 games. He is a really good young player. Miguel Vargas, the former Dodger, he hit a home run on Wednesday. He's in the midst of a 10-game on-base streak. He's now batting .343 with 4 home runs, 7 RBIs, 11 runs scored, and 12 walks in that span. So got to focus on Noah Schultz and some of the real hot hitters in the White Sox lineup here tonight. And that's a look at our keys to today's game. Well, Mason Miller continues to be terrific out of the Padres bullpen. I caught up with Mason inside the Padres clubhouse earlier.
Sam Levitt here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for today's game here at Petco Park. And right now we're joined by Padres closer Mason Miller. Well, Mason, a lot of good things for you on the field this season, but you had some big news yesterday that you and your wife Jordan announced off the field, and that is you and your wife are expecting your first child. Congratulations. I imagine it's been a very exciting time.
Yes, yeah, ecstatic. You know, it's something you think about doing, starting a family, and then, you know, once you get to the point that you're ready to do it, and then, you know, finding out you're pregnant and all the steps along the way, finding out things that you never really thought about. But yeah, just really happy for myself and for Jordan and our families too. Just really looking forward to this next step of our personal lives.
Well, congratulations again. Really, really exciting news. On to the baseball. I kind of felt bad when, you know, myself, others kept asking you about the streak, and it's a good thing to ask about, but I also, you know, you get afraid of the jinx part of it and stuff like that as a broadcaster. Now that the streak is over, and it was such a great run going back to last August, how do you reflect on that run from last August 6th until you unfortunately finally gave up a run?
Yeah, it's an awesome thing to talk about and to have. But yeah, I'm just happy with the ability that I had to impact games down the stretch last year, come over after the trade, kind of make good on you know, everything that the Padres saw in me and believed in me, show them my value, and then, you know, come out this year and now it's just about winning games. You know, I think I've said it like split season, you know, kind of doesn't make it feel like necessarily one streak. You look at it as finishing last year really well and starting this year really well. So those are two good things, and still really happy with the start to the year and looking to continue to build on it.
I know you don't want to give up runs, but And you said it, I think, after the game, you alluded to, well, it's, time to start a new streak, an opportunity to start a new streak. Does it, I know it's a weird question, but does it at least take like a little pressure off in the sense of, okay, now you're kind of past the streak and maybe into the flow of the season a little bit more, still with the opportunity to be absolutely terrific?
Yeah, I don't think it really changed much at all for me. I was glad that anytime as a closer or a late inning guy, anytime you give up any runs, you want it to be when the team has a little bit of a cushion, so you guys still get the win. So we're grateful for that, and just looking to continue to do it. It wasn't something that was on my mind each and every day, or each time out, like, man, I got to throw up a 0 and keep this streak going. It's like, no, I'm just put up a 0, help the team today, help the team get a W. That's my focus each day, so that's not going to change.
We're joined by Padres closer Mason Miller here on the Padres Radio Network. You alluded to it, just the comparison between coming over in the trade last year, pitching last year, and now being a Padre from opening day on. I thought it was interesting. Manny Machado, he did an interview with ESPN's Buster Olney. I don't know if you saw this clip. Okay, he essentially talked about when you came over last year, maybe you were kind of getting your bearings in the clubhouse, a little quiet, and he felt like this year he's seen a little bit more like an aggressive mentality, a little bit more attitude. Maybe is that something that you kind of agree with? That maybe it's coming to you more in that sense as you get more comfortable here.
Yeah, I think it's like anywhere. I hadn't been traded or much. The A's had been the only organization I'd been with from draft up till debuting. So just coming over to a new group, getting to know everybody, just finding that sense of comfort and being yourself around everyone. And I think once you get to that point, it's really easy here. Everybody's awesome and really encourages you to be yourself. So I'm grateful for the reception that everybody's had here, and to hear star players like Manny say that, that's good. That means what I'm doing is working. So that's good to hear.
When we talked in spring training, you had talked about the importance of putting together a full season, that you felt like in some years past, maybe it was a little bit more up and down than what you would have liked. There were good stretches, but stretches where you felt like you could be even better. To you, as you now come off what was such a great run to begin the season, in your mind, what's now the key to now putting together the full year with still a very long ways to go?
Yeah, I think pitchers and players have recency bias, so just kind of not letting yourself get too caught up in a bad game or a day that maybe you didn't have your best stuff, and don't let that take away from the months that you felt really good and pitched with confidence. And confidence is so huge in this game, no matter who you are. So just holding on to that and pulling from your successes, not as much your failures.
I see you wearing the Holy Sheets shirt, and I will say I think it's a new one. I don't think I've seen that one in the City Connect colors. He did have the walk-off the first City Connect night. I'll use this as an opportunity to ask you about Gavin, because he is a former White Sox. Gavin Sheets, he's had so many big hits for this team the last couple of seasons. Your thoughts on Gavin as a teammate?
Oh, Gavin as a teammate's phenomenal. Baseball aside, just Gavin, the person, is an awesome dude. Guy that you love being around. Really gregarious personality, brings guys together. So that's awesome. But player he's on the field, he's a clutch player. He likes those big moments. He's kind of knack for those big swings. And we feel really good getting him up there with some guys on base for sure.
Mason, really appreciate the time again.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovements.com.
What to watch for in today's game? Can the Padres limit this young White Sox slugger, Munetaka Murakami? 12 home runs on the season for Murakami in his first major league campaign. That is tied with Aaron Judge and Yordan Alvarez for the most home runs in Major League Baseball. Murakami batting second and playing first base here tonight for the White Sox. That's what to watch for in tonight's game. When we come back, Jesse Ackler, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game coverage. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.